Hello everyone, this is a call and I am a somatic therapist. If you'd like to find out a little bit about what I do, I have my website posted down below this video. So today I'm going to continue my series of nakshatras as they relate to Kundalini yoga. Specifically today we're going to deal with the 11th nakshatra, which is Purva Phalguni. Purva Phalguni is so it's in the heart of Leo. I mean, in Vedic astrology, if you do your Western astrology chart, you may find this lines up possibly a Virgo. But again, that's a different story. So in this particular case, in Vedic astrology, this sits right at the center part of Leo. And so Leo is ruled by the sun. And so the sun is the sort of ultimate creative energy in our particular solar system. So this nakshatra kind of epitomizes that in a lot of ways. Now, the approach I'm using for these nakshatras are dealing with the gunas. Now, the gunas, just as a reminder, are the fundamental qualities that exist in all nature, in all creation. And so in this particular case, we've got two of the gunas, which are tamas and rajas. So tamasic energy would be kind of like inertia. It's how energy contracts and focuses on the material plane. Rajasic energy is active, it's proactive, it's seeking attachments, it's seeking to move towards things. So this, once again, Purva Phalguni epitomizes these energies. Now, the rulership of Purva Phalguni is related to the top two gunas. The top two gunas are Rajasic on its secondary level, and on its sort of tertiary level, we have tamasic energy. So Rajasic and tamasic, how do those add up to Venus? Well, Venus, if you think about what the energy of Venus is in astrology, Venus represents, it's kind of the energy of desire. It's the energy of intuition. It's the energy of instinct. It's the energy of, again, it's seeking sensual things. It's seeking, I guess, fulfillment through the senses, and that could be aesthetics, that could be, touch, that can be, again, just sensual things. So Venus applies to Purva Phalguni in the sense of you've got this Rajasic energy, this very proactive kind of mind. So again, it's proactive mind, and it's projected outward in the world in a tamasic way, meaning it's proactive energy that is going out over the material plane. So this is very much like Venus, which is active energy that's almost, again, it's deep and intuitive. I kind of think about Venus as being almost like reptilian brain in some ways. It's the sort of glandular goodies. Think about another sign which is ruled by Venus, which would be Taurus. Taurus is very sensual as a sign, and it tends to be very focused on material things, hence it's ruled by the earth. So Rajasic energy moving out into the physical material realm, tamasic. So another way to kind of see this is that on the Rajasic level, this is a bit like kind of like the, again, this is the overall attitude, or kind of like it's kind of attitude is a good way to put it. But again, this is very positive mind. And it's projecting on the material plane, which is like water. So water will flow outward. So this idea of a projection, which is what Yogi Bhajan goes into in his book, The Mind, at the water level, a projection, what it is it's kind of like how you flow out into the earth. It's what's expressed outwardly. So in this particular case, it's tamasic. It's inertia, but it's also the focus on material things. So this particular nakshatra tends to be very prosperous, kind of blessed in a way. Because one of the things about this particular nakshatra, I'm not going to say they're lazy because they're not, but it's kind of like, well, let me get into the symbols. So the symbols for this nakshatra are the cot, the bed, fireplace, platforms, hammocks, these sorts of things. And again, these are places of rest. But these are places which you kind of, well, eventually you've got to get out of bed, right? Eventually you have to get off the cot. Eventually you have to get off your ass and do something. So these folks, what it is it's kind of, I think about it as like a gestation period. And this will make sense when I go over the god that's associated with this. So this idea of like there's energy gestating, so there's restfulness. In this restfulness, it's kind of like a creative charge is building. It's building and it's building and it's building. Because remember, keep in mind, this is a solar nakshatra. This is ruled by the energy of Leo, again, the sun. So this energy, this creative drive that wants to be projected out needs to find rest. So there's a timing to it. So these folks will then, once the timing is right, they will go out and they will seek. Another thing about these folks is that they're seeking validation with their actions and their efforts. So this is kind of not like the previous nakshatra, Magha. Magha kind of didn't care about validation. It was an idealist. This is not an idealist. These are people who want returns. They want validation primarily. The material wealth is something that it's not a worry. I shouldn't say that, because these people are not worriers. These people generally have very carefree energy to them. In this carefree energy, this like kind of lack of worry, this enthusiasm, this very proactive nature that is Rajasic energy, this very proactive drive, it is simply looking to create and to be busy. So it's creating and being busy, and then it rests. Then it creates and it gets busy and it rests. But again, it's out through the material plane. And so these creative endeavors, Yogi Bhajan makes the association with the artist. So it's like the artist, the actor energy. So let me go look at the sort of baseline a little bit more here. So on the absolute fundamental primary level, again, this is a materialistic life path. Tamasic is the fundamental energy here. So meaning the divine energy of life is material. It's being focused and directed into material things. So this materialization process, it's again, for these particular folks, it's about being busy. So we got tamasic energy and rajasic, which Yogi Bhajan again makes the artist, is what he calls it. To me, an artist is a bit like, this energy is a bit like the moon. So what is the moon? Well, the moon is physical solid body that influences our physical plane. It actually creates activity on our physical plane. It creates movement and motion within the plants, and the Vedic folks would say it's drawing up soma, which is I don't want to go into it, but it's sort of like bliss serum. So this energy that ebbs and flows on the physical planet, on the earth, through the tides, and in our bodies, this energy, the moon really dictates a lot of motion and movement. So again, a physical body which creates movement. So again, putting all this together, you've got this very lunar-like energy on a base. So again, it's a physical body that is creating movement outward and ultimately being further projected out into material things. The symbol, or not the symbol, but the god for this is called Bhaga. Bhaga is also it's also kind of known as the sun. It's, again, kind of in reference to the creative power of this particular nakshatra. It's also associated with, I believe I read it in one of the books that I have, the vagina. So again, it's this sort of creative gestation idea. It's rest, gestation, and acting and projecting outward into the world. So the overall path here is called kama. So kama is desire, it's passion. So putting all this together, what we're looking at here is we're looking at folks who are very creative. They're processing the world through their sensory experiences, which is very much a Venus-like quality, which is, again, it's the seeking or the desire for sensual experiences. These folks are intuitive, they're very sensitive, and they're sensitive to others' emotions, and they're sensitive to others' reactions and responses to what they've created. So some of the generalizations you can kind of make about this nakshatra, because of its association with Leo, is that it's self-centered. I kind of mean that in a bad way, but not in a bad way. I mean self-centered, I think about this idea of divine selfishness. I feel like, so if these folks actually shift at some point in their life, if they shift their focus towards spiritualization, they will go all in on the spiritualization process, because they understand this idea of, I need to take care of my needs first before I can really truly be useful to the other. I have to love myself before I can love the other. So these folks will go all in on being incredibly selfish and achieving material things and material gains, or they'll go all in on achieving spiritual matters as well. So one of the other things I kind of found interesting about this nakshatra was, has to do with, every one of these nakshatras, the path towards spiritualization is kind of laid out through these gunas. This particular path towards spiritualization really, and this is probably true of most all the nakshatras, this one in particular, really what it's about all the creativity which lies within the heart. So what I mean by lies within the heart, so when one is attuned to what's authentic in life, and again, these are carefree people, they're kind of functioning based on this idea of luck, of faith. So again, if it's from a spiritual perspective, it's faith. And if it's from a materialistic perspective, it's luck. So you also see gamblers, and you see people who kind of mess around with black magic and, all sorts of black tantra and things of that matter with this particular sign. But what you also see is this desire to, express what's truly authentic. Now, because these people don't worry a whole lot, money just kind of happens, because again, they're busy. They're busy out on the material plane. So money kind of happens for them because they're here to express what's in their heart. And if they're connecting with what's authentic and with what's in their heart, then they don't have to worry about the money. The money just occurs. It just happens. So some of the negative qualities. So the negative qualities of this particular nakshatra, I think I mentioned gambling. I think I mentioned black tantra, other sort of black arts. But on the positive side, and this is just one of my books said, it said their evolving side is conquest and domination, which doesn't really sound all that positive. But again, remember, this is kind of self-centered people. So conquest and domination is, whatever that's driving them, whatever they're being driven towards. And again, this is full of desire. They're moving towards those things. And so conquest and domination, I don't think they mean this in the kind of militaristic kind of sense. I think it just means the need to be looked at, the need for validation, the need to kind of be the man, to be the center of attention. And again, these are all very stereotypical Leo kind of qualities. One of the side effects of these is that these folks tend to perceive themselves as very unique, very special, and again, this is all really good for one's mental health. And again, if it's well balanced and if the person is functioning authentically, they are truly unique and they truly are special, because they can create. Again, they have this divine impulse to create out onto the material plane. So I think about this idea of. So somebody told me once that a Hierophant, for those of you who are into tarot, the idea of a Hierophant, or I guess in some ways, I guess a magician, which is bringing heaven to earth. So it's the bringing of this heavenly charge, the sun, this solar energy, and then projecting it out onto the earth. So with all that said, I'm going to go into the exercises that are associated with this and how I've made the connection between Purva Phalguni and Yogi Bhajan's projection 10, which he calls the actor. All right, so here is Yogi Bhajan's book called The Mind. This is the book which I used to make the connections between the Gunas, which are represented, in the Nakshatras, to Yogi Bhajan's, what he calls the projections. And again, what the projections are is you've got this materialization process through the elements. So it's the movement from least dense, which would be ether, air, fire, water, and then eventually down to earth. But in this particular case, the projections are related to water. And again, you can think about water as it flows outward until it finds its resting place. So that's why he uses water as the projection, is because that's what water does, is it flows out until it finds its balance place. Now, this chart, which is severely damaged, all begins with Chitta, which is the universal mind. So Purva Phalguni has tamasic energy at its base, which is Manas, which is according to this, the closest association to psychology. So tamas, you can see here, it says heavy, slow, fixed, concealed, habitual, mixed, impure. Inertia is another word. Now on a secondary level, we're going to follow this down to the positive mind, or Rajasic. So it's tamasic on its base, Rajasic on its secondary level, and then finally we're going to continue following the progression here down to the artist, and then we have additional tamasic energy on the water level, which is being projected out, and that is the actor. So that is how I found the exercise that's associated with its nakshatra. So then you go through the book and you find projection 10, the actor, the art of memorizing creativity, and then there's some blah blah. And then we've got the exercise, which is Karani Kriya, which I'm going to go ahead and describe in the next segment. It's done for 11 to 31 minutes. And this is a pretty good exercise, which I've done a number of times. And like I said, I'll go ahead and show you that now. All right. So now the exercise associated with Purva Phalguni. So the one thing about this nakshatra that I probably brought up multiple times during the previous segments are that this is a high energy nakshatra. Even though it's known for being kind of restful and things like that. One of the things though about this nakshatra is, again, it's all about doing. There's a lot of doing going on, a lot of activity. There's also a lot of sensual play. There's a lot of sexual impulse with this particular nakshatra as well. And again, all the associations with the sun and creativity and creation and, et cetera, et cetera. So one of the more interesting things about a lot of these exercises as they relate to the nakshatras is a lot of the nakshatras that tend to be very high energy, what I'm noticing is that Yogi Bhajan chose exercises which emphasize the exhale. And that could be in the form of a mantra, where the mantra is drawn out, over for instance, you'll recite the same mantra 5 times on one breath. And essentially what you're doing is you're drawing out the exhale, because a recitation of a mantra is an exhale. As I'm talking to you, I'm exhaling. So in this particular case, this meditation doesn't have a specific mantra attached to it. Instead, it has a long, drawn-out exhale, and it's 10 to 15 seconds of exhale. Now, what does this do? So the exhale places an emphasis, or it activates the parasympathetic nervous system. Now, the parasympathetic nervous system is called rest and digest nervous system. And this is all as opposed to the sympathetic nervous system, which is more fight and flight. So Again, these are great exercises, even if, Purva Phalguni is not like your particular placement in your sun, your ascendant, or your moon. It's still a very good exercise to do because of that emphasis on the exhale, which will allow you to calm a lot of nervous energies, a lot of anxieties. Another way to kind of perceive this exercise is that sort of exhale, you're doing it almost, to me, I call it the eternal exhale. Even though it says 10 to 15 seconds, I don't really suggest counting. What I suggest you do is you just continue to exhale until all the air is out. For me, sometimes that's like 20 seconds. But the point is what it does is it pulls in your core. As you're exhaling, your core, your rib cage, everything is kind of compressing. And particularly if you do, as I'm going to instruct this exercise, which is connecting to your pelvic floor. You're going to connect to your navel point and your pelvic floor with how I'm going to instruct this. And that exhale, you're cinching it and gradually making it tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter until all the air is out. So with dogs, they have these like wraps. For dogs, they have like a nervous condition or anxiety. They put these wraps around the rib cage. What it does is compression. And the feeling of compression relaxes them. So that's basically what a long exhale does, is that it uses your internal girdle to, the transverse abdominals and, the intercostal muscles and all these different things. It allows them to squeeze in and give you a feeling of kind of like you're hugging yourself. And so it creates a secure feeling. So getting into the exercise, the eyes for this exercise are 1/10 shut. So you're going to be kind of squinting. Another way to look at 1/10 shut is 9/10 open, or rather 1/10 open, 9/10 shut. So I'm confusing myself, half full, half empty, right? So anyway, it's 1/10 open, 9/10 shut. The hands, so this is the mudra. You're going to have your ring finger and pinky pinned over by your thumb. Then you're going to place the middle finger and index finger at the level of the throat. Now, the breath pattern is you're going to inhale 2 to 3 seconds. So it's a rather quick inhale. Powerful. So you want a strong, powerful, quick inhale. And then you're going to retain the breath for 5 seconds. And then you're going to exhale 10 to 15 seconds. Now, again, what will make all this more effective and make this exercise much more potent is if you have, I guess, points on the body which to place your awareness. So I'll give you an example. So you inhale, you want to create a slight contraction on your brow point. So you're inhaling, and it's as if you're pulling your energy, your awareness through the third eye point, down the front side of the body to just below the navel. Just below the navel, right about the belt line. And then once you're down there, and again, this is your quick inhale, then what you want to do is you want to lift your pelvic floor. So think about the perineum, the anus, that general area. You're lifting that very gently. And you're going to treat the perineum like a laser pointer. So meaning, as you're lifting the perineum, it's like it's pointing at where you just placed your awareness below your navel. And so what I usually do, since you're retaining the breath for a 5 count here, is I feel and I sense, while I'm retaining the breath, for a pulse, or it could be a spinning sensation, or heat. When I kind of feel like a strong sense of that part of my body, that's when I continue the exhale, which requires, in this particular case, continuing to lift your pelvic floor and pulling what's called root lock or mula bandha. So you're lifting your pelvic floor, contracting, and you're cinching the pelvic floor, the anus, the genitals, the perineum, the belt line, and you're making it firm. And so all the air is exhaled out. And you'll notice your abdomen pull in, the core of your body pull in. You'll notice your ribs contracting and pulling in. And again, all this air will be exhaled out. So, I think there's anything else I need to really mention about this. So again, I'll go ahead and talk about this pathway. So it's inhaling 2 to 3 seconds, boop, 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 bringing the awareness down below the navel. So in create a slight contraction at the brow, bring your awareness down below the navel. Retain the breath, 5 count. Keep the pelvic floor slightly lifted. And again, it's like a laser pointer. You want to feel and sense that space below the navel. Then when you exhale, this long, eternal exhale, you want to continue contracting that pelvic floor, pulling in the belt line, and allowing the exhale to be complete and thorough. So I'm going to go ahead and do 1 or 2 repetitions of this. Not that you're going to be able to see where I'm placing my awareness, but at least you'll know what it looks like. So eyes, once again, are 1/10 open or 9/10 shut. You want to pull up nice and tall. For that, I like to push my pelvic floor, my sit bones, my perineum down into the floor. And once I feel like I've lifted slightly, I anchor the chin very gently. Coming to the level of the throat, once again, pinning down the pinky and ring finger with the thumbs, connecting the middle finger and index finger. Again, pulling up nice and tall, keeping your alignment, chin slightly tucked, eyes 1/10 open, inhaling through the brow point down towards the navel, lifting the pelvic floor, feeling and sensing that space down below the navel. Once you retain the breath for about 5 seconds, you continue to contract the pelvic floor, exhaling all the air out. And once all the air is out, you want to relax your pelvic floor. Bring your awareness back up to the brow point. Inhale through the brow. Again, 2 to 3 second inhale, bringing the awareness back down below the navel. Once again, lifting the pelvic floor, directing the energy towards the navel area. And once again, continuing the pull root lock, exhaling all the air out, 10 to 15 seconds or longer. And that is Karani Kriya. And one other thing is that I forgot to mention how long this exercise is done for. So it's 11 to 31 minutes. So you want to do this exercise for 11 to 31 minutes. These are very loose guidelines. So do it at least 3 minutes. Build to 11, then eventually build to 31 at your own pace and your own rhythm. So once again, thank you.